So speaking of the Battle Sisters, I've looked at the various changes that have happened to the rules and the points. The Retributors have a rules change. We'll talk about that when we get to the Retributors. Points drops, there are a few. Aestred and Agathae, a bit cheaper. Didn't expect that. I think they're perfectly fine at like 85 points. 70 points is very nice. 10 points off St. Celestine won't really change much about her, but it's useful. It's a good change to have. The Retributors coming down 10 points from 115 points on Powered Dominions to 105 on Powered Battle Sisters, that is more important. That is a better price. And the final one is weird. The Imagifier. It's listed as being down 10 points, but it's still listed at 65 points, including in the app. Now, last time they did a balance update, which was just over 3 months ago, when they updated the Repentia, they said, oh yeah, Repentia also a bit cheaper. It didn't actually show them any cheaper. It showed the same thing. It was like minus some points. However, it's the same points as last time. A few weeks later, like the next time they updated the points because there was a codex released, then it was, okay, yeah, we've now got the correct points for Repentia as being 10 points cheaper than they were. I assume the same thing has happened. The same mistake has been made. So although the Imagifier is still listed as 65 points and officially is 65 points, it being 55 points is a much better price for an Imagifier. That is 5 points more than the Hospitaller. So in this video, I will talk about the Imagifier as if they were 55 points, as I expect when we get to the Dark Eldar points, the Drukhari points, then we'll see suddenly, oh yeah, the Imagifier, that's 55 points, yeah. Here we have a tier list. So we have 4 different tiers, as well as a bunch of just in waiting. A tier, this is a great choice. It doesn't really matter which detachment you're playing, this is a unit you want in your army. When it comes to where we place them in tiers, some of them I'll ask you and we'll do a poll on the YouTube community, the sidebar, there'll be voting options there. Otherwise, I'll just say I'm very certain it is in this particular position. So A tier is great in all detachments. I encourage you to have them in your army. B tier is a very good unit, but other units can do the same job better or the same job but cheaper. C tier units have one detachment where they work, and not really anywhere else. And the D tier ones, they struggle to get a points appropriate use for them. These are not great units. You can have fun with them, you could include them in your army, but you're not going to get the best options out of them. There are so many other things that do so much better. This is where I'm putting the Dogmata. In my battle report 2 weeks ago? I guess, yeah, it's about 2 weeks ago now, where the Dogmata did something that was kind of a one-off. That was very unusual. Thinking about getting into Sisters, do I still stand by the 4 ways to start collecting Sisters? Nothing's really changed since then. That was with the various combat patrols of the Sisters. There's been no big boxes released since then. There's been no major unit changes. So that's still a good video to get into Sisters. Have a unit, have a character, get a big box if you like, and go from there. Let's start with Dominions. We'll pop the Dominions up there. The thing with Dominions, they do very well when split by an immolator. Because then you have 5 Sisters, one of which has the Simulacrum, and they will stay on your home objective. Just to be there. They can control it if you can score mission points from it. If not, it's also useful to have it to exclude various other units from deep striking near to it. Can't have Sisters without some Holy Fire. Dominions have Flamers. That definitely works. Definitely works. The Simulacrum's there to generate Miracle Dice. If you needed to, the Dominions can Scout. Even if you split them with an Immolator, that's 2 different units that can Scout. And if they're in an Immolator, the Immolator can Scout. That can be enough to get you into cover, so you're out of line of sight, so you can deploy it in the open. If you go first, then you can Scout forward and then move forward, and you can control the center from the start. Now, it's always optional. You don't have to Scout. Scouting is there as one thing you can do. You can have them hidden, you can move them forward. You also have the reactive move. These are very speedy Sisters. They have assault on all of the guns except the superior guns, so the bolters, storm bolters, flamers, and melters. You can move and advance. Remember, you can use miracle dice on the advance. If that's going to get you into like melter range, the 6-inch melter range, or in the Bringers of Flame, get you within 6 inches to use that detachment rule, do that. High miracle dice can be used for that. You have a cherub. You can get a new one. You get a new miracle dice when you use a miracle dice on the unit. Reactive move can get you out of problems. Enemies are coming close, you move away. Enemies are coming close, you move onto an objective and have more bodies there. If they want to shoot you, they're going to have to shoot a lot of you to get through you. Lone Wolf Gamer, thank you. Happy anniversary to your existence. What is the Sisters unit role that you would want to see or is missing from the army? We have quite a few lone operatives, but they're specific special characters. We could have a generic saint. We could have snipers. A Battle Sister sniper team, one which prays for the shot to hit, the other one fires the gun. That's what I like. Otherwise, I think we're pretty well served. There's enough units that's like, yes, this is enough of a distinct flavor. We don't need more things necessarily. I've never been a fan of the idea of cavalry sisters or sisters on bikes. I don't think we need them because we have Seraphim. Those are our fast-moving shooter unit. Regular battle sisters with chain swords? Sounds good. They should have a unit called Celestians that have them. Or Drop Cathedral. Drop Cathedral also works. Right, what else are we doing with the Dominions? Oh yes, reactive move. If there's a transport nearby, you can reactive move into the transport. A reactive move is a normal move. If all of the models in your unit end a normal move within 3 inches of a transport, you can embark in the transport. Lots of different weapons you can have. Flamers, good for clearing lots of enemy infantry. Not necessarily needed because we have a lot of anti-infantry guns everywhere. Battle Sister bolt guns, Dominion bolt guns will work for that. It's useful for Overwatch, but there are other units that can Overwatch a bit better. The Sanctifiers now exist, they have more flamers, they can do a better Overwatch. Melter guns are probably what you want to go for. That's where we need something that can get through enemy armor, even light vehicles, even heavy infantry. We will struggle against unless you use melter guns. So you almost always want melter guns. It is a nice idea to have storm bolters. Because you can scout, you can get very close to enemy infiltrators. A lot of enemy infiltrators are 2 wounds. Pure Strain Gene Stealers, Space Marine Scouts, Tau Stealth Suits. Poxwalkers have a feel no pain, but if you have damage 2, you get through those Poxwalkers much quicker. So having Storm Bolters, pretty good idea. And paired with Aestred and Agathae, that's where you can have more shots, 4 shots per Storm Bolter at damage 2. If you can make them devastating wounds, that's a lot of mortal wounds coming at the enemy. So let's talk about Aestred and Agathae. Let's put you in B tier. B tier is where we had them last time. So we like devastating wounds, something we can do with Dominions. You would lose Scout, but you're also gaining a lot from it. There's 2 special rules, or like 3 special rules. If you kill an enemy unit, you get a miracle dice. If Agathae dies, you get some miracle dice. If you're in the Hallowed Martyrs, you can bring her back. There's no limitation on only non-epic heroes. You can bring her back, she dies again, you get even more miracle dice. And yes, we get devastating wounds. I've tried it with Sacresants. Sacresants is very nice. Damage 2 on the mauls. And then you have the Champions of Faith. Champions of Faith is a good detachment for the Sacresants. You can increase your AP, you can increase your strength, and you can have a lot of attacks. They have better weapon skill as well. That's more successful hits. If you have more successful hits, you can get more successful wounds just by more dice. Damage 2. More mortal wounds. It goes through the enemy armor. You don't need the extra AP, which is something that the mauls generally lack. They're AP -1. This works okay. The problem is, it relies on rolling 6s. As a tactic, oh, I'm sure I'll roll a 6 and everything will be fine. Not necessarily the best idea. The dice be fickle. I know that you can change 1 miracle dice into a 6. You could put Aestred and Agathae with a Diologus in a Battle Sister squad. That's the only place you can have 2 characters, or 2 character units, because I know Aestred and Agathae are as a pair, but you can double up with another unit. another character. Aestred Agathae with Retributors with Heavy Bolters. We do get rerolls of hit rolls for 1 with Retributors, but it's not many Heavy Bolters. That's 3, 6, 9, 12 times 2, 24 possible devastating wounds. Although you have sustained hits as well. Okay, Heavy Bolters aren't awful. We will get to the Retributors. You're going to get a lot more shots with the Dominions. You get all the bolt guns. You get the weapon that the Superior has, which can be a hand flamer. That's a lot more shots. Aestred Agathae with Retributors and Heavy Flamers. I mean, yeah, again, you're re-rolling wound rolls of 1, but that's not that many 6s. Remember how many 6s you need to get to wound, and those are damage 1 Heavy Flamers. And it doesn't matter about their better strength and their AP and their ignore cover, you're rolling 6s. That's going to get through the enemy's armor. That's how devastating wounds work. So I wouldn't say with Retributors, definitely not Heavy Flamers, maybe with Heavy Bolters, but you're getting very expensive. I would stick with Dominions. Could potentially do it with Multi-Melters, having a lot of Multi-Melters. If you have a Miracle Dice of a 6, oh look at that, that's D6 mortal wounds. Devastating wounds, pretty much the same thing. And if you were in the Army of Faith, another die could become the damage roll. So if you need to do a specific number of damage to the enemy, you can. However, Multi-Melters AP -4, the only thing you're not getting through are units that have an invulnerable save. AP -4 is going to just wreck things otherwise. Yes, you can double up in a Battle Sister squad with Aestred Agathae and a Diologus. So then you can automatically have a Miracle Dice become a 6. It's an idea to have it with a Battle Sister squad. Okay. We'll do the Retributors next, and then I will talk about the Retributors with the Diologus option. You can have them work with Battle Sisters. You can have them work with Retributors. I think Dominions or Battle Sisters is the way to go. That's what I suggest. The problem is, are you getting just enough points out of them? Now, they had a points drop. The points drop is good. They're now 70 points rather than 85 points, so much more includable. Remember how expensive Retributors are. Remember they're 105 points for 5 Sisters. That's the same as 10 Battle Sisters, or for 10 points more you're getting 10 Dominions with a lot of Stormbolters or with Melter Guns. If they were with Dominions, I would say Stormbolters. If they're with Battle Sisters, I would say you could have a Stormbolter and also a Multi-Melter. Use a Miracle Dice to get that successful 6, which is Devastating Wounds. There's D6 Devastating Wounds. This doesn't spill over because it's not mortal wounds, so you're still only going to kill 1 model at most. The exception being if you're in the Army of Faith, and then you can use 2 Miracle Dice on a model, and then you could make both of the wound rolls a 6 if you also had a Diologus in the squad. The Diologus is a unit that makes the unit work really well, any unit, in the Army of Faith, as long as you have the Miracle Dice. And often it seems the Hallowed Martyrs has more Miracle Dice. Okay, I think I'm sticking Aestred Agathae in B. They are a good unit. They're not necessarily the best unit. Yeah, other units can do a similar job. If you had Dominions or Battle Sisters or Sacresants without Aestred Agathae, you will be fine regardless. So let's move on to the Retributors. These have had a little bit of change. Let's put them in D tier is where they were last time we did this tier list. So their unit rule, it changed in the previous balance patch. You can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 all of the time. If you are avenging a unit, so if an enemy unit has destroyed one of your Adepta Sororitas units, and I think it does have to be Adepta Sororitas, so it won't work if they have destroyed like an allied armager. Yes, it has to be a Battle Sister squad, or Battle Sister unit, Adepta Sororitas unit. Then you get +1 to hit and wound. In the most recent balance patch, it went from you get one or the other to you get both. So if you're avenging one of your sister's units, which is something that you do when you're putting a unit on an objective and it dies and then you want to shoot that unit, then you're getting reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1 and you're getting +1 to hit and wound. So your Multi-Melters are hitting on a 3+, and they're wounding on probably a 2+, maybe a 3+, at worst on a 4+. And you're rerolling wound rolls of 1. This is very good. Heavy bolters will get to reroll hit rolls of 1. Maybe you get more 6s. Those are sustained hits. You getting +1 to wound. You going from wounding the average Chaos Space Marine from wounding them on a 3 to wounding them on a 2. That's great. Retributors are very useful for taking out biggish vehicles. The multi-melters are strength 9. That is not the best. Average tank is toughness 9, like a weakish tank. I mean, not so weak like an Orc Truck or Dark Eldar Raider. But other things like a Rhino, those are toughness 9. Any kind of battle tank, any kind of like Demon Prince, those are toughness 10. So you're wounding them on 5s normally. So if they've hurt you in some way, you can get some retribution. At 105 points, Retributors are back down to an acceptable points level. I think they're finally good again. It was like April 2024 when they were last good. That was the index, they were 105 points, then they worked. This is with a better unit rule, and at 105 points, now they can operate. Don't send them in as a first strike, because you're not going to have that +1 to hit and +1 to wound. So don't rush forward with an immolator, jump out with a Diologus and shoot something. It's not going to work as well as if you let the enemy kill one of your units on an objective, then you counterattack. Move the unit out of cover and shoot, or have them in a rapid response immolator or a Rhino, zoom that to where it needs to be, then get out. You can disembark and shoot, you just can't disembark and charge, and then you're getting the +1 to hit and wound. That's much better. That gives you 3 different ways to get the +1 to hit in the Hallowed Martyrs attachment. You have heavy. That's a key word. You stayed still, you get +1 to hit. You have avenging a unit. That's +1 to hit. In the Hallowed Martyrs, if you've lost a model, the superior, just take the superior off, then your unit also has +1 to hit. These do not all stack, so you don't go from hitting on a 4+ down to hitting on a 2+. The most you can get is +1, but if the enemy had stealth, which is -1 to hit, overall, you can get to +1 to hit. Unfortunately, Retributors are very fragile at toughness 3. They are 21 points per model, and that is considered an acceptable number. It's still a lot of points. Then you're wanting to add Aestred and Agathae? I wouldn't. But if you're wanting to add a Rhino, you're getting much closer to more heavy hitting units. You're getting closer to Paragon Warsuit units points. In the Bringers of Flame, they are very useful because you have them pop out of a transport very close. Bringers of Flame gives you +1 strength from the detachment rule. That's different to +1 to wound. So your strength 9 multi-melters go to strength 10. They would be wounding on a 4+ normally. Then with the +1 to wound, now you're wounding on a 3+. That stacks. That does stack. So they are now operating okay in most detachments. In the Penitent Host, as soon as the enemy has killed some Arco-flagellants that you threw at them that they had to fight, then you get to shoot the enemy better. Hallowed Martyrs, there's nothing especially good for them. There is shoot back. If the Retributors get shot, then in the Hallowed Martyrs we have Praise the Fallen. The problem is how many models are you going to lose and how many are then going to shoot back? Because you've got 5 sisters, you can't increase that unit size. It's normal shooting, so you'll get your reroll hit rolls of 1. It's not Overwatch. That can work. The Rhino is probably the cheapest tank you want to take them in. Don't put them in an immolator. Please don't put them in an immolator. The purpose of an immolator is to split Novitiates, or Battle Sisters, or Dominions. They work. Bringers of Flame is where they work best. Bringers of Flame is still a viable detachment. You can absolutely use the Bringers of Flame. Retributors work well there. Jump out of Rhino. You could have 2 units in a Rhino. Then you also get other stratagems that are available. Well, there's Cleansing Flames, so that's 2 command points to have a torrent weapon cause devastating wounds. I wouldn't have heavy flamers. I would stick with the multi-melters. And I know we're saying, ooh, what about heavy bolters? Yeah, maybe. But compare the points of Retributors to, say, Mortifiers, to a Castigator. You get 3 heavy bolters on a Castigator. You get 2 heavy bolters per Mortifier. The points are not too different. And those units can do a lot more things as well as just being heavy bolters. And they don't die as easily. So I would stick with multi-melters. Unfortunately, the box set only comes with 2 multi-melters within it. However, by swapping out some barrel nozzles on the flamers, the heavy flamers, with the spare melter guns you get in the Dominion/Battle Sister box, you have multi-melters there. Right, in the Bringers of Flame, the stratagem I was thinking of... Blazing Ire? Yeah, it's 2 command points. Your transport gets shot, your unit gets out of the transport and shoots. Very useful, and you get Assault in the Bringers of Flame detachment, so you can move much quicker. And then potentially get within that 6 inches. I know it's 6 inches, it sucks that it's 6 inches. Otherwise, we have a detachment that just solved so many of our problems. The Bringers of Flame was great, because +1 strength is what we need. It brings the melter guns up to strength 10. It brings the flamers up to strength 6, and the bolters up to strength 5. It was really good for a shooting army. And then you barely need to worry about combat. Don't bother with Sacresants or Repentia or Arco-flagellants, just the guns. So the Retributors work in several detachments. I would say several. They do especially well in the Bringers of Flame. They do quite well in the Hallowed Martyrs. They can do okay in other detachments. So because they work in more than one detachment, I'm willing to put them in B tier. I still think if you're thinking of a basic unit you want, I would go for Dominions. I would go for Battle Sisters before picking the Retributors. But Retributors are good. What about Retributors with the Diologus? It's pretty cheap in terms of adding a character. You're now 145 points. Yes, you can change the Miracle Dice to a 6. So if we're using heavy bolters, that is a successful sustained hit. Now you're getting 2 hits. If it was flamers, which we shouldn't be using, well, you have a successful wound. Multi-melters is what you want to use, maybe on a hit roll, or if you're going to have difficulty wounding the enemy, on a wound roll. Or better yet, on a damage roll. I would save it for the damage roll. And then you're getting 6 damage plus 2 from Melter, that's 8 damage. Doing that on Overwatch is also an option. Multi-melters, you guarantee at least 1 successful hit because you use your Miracle Dice to hit with a 6. Great. Maybe in the 2, 4, 6, 7 other shots, you might get 1 more successful hit. Okay, you've got 2 of them. Say only 1 wounds, it should go through the enemy save. Then you have to roll randomly for damage. But if you're in the Army of Faith, you can do 2 acts of faith per unit per phase. That includes the enemy's movement phase or the enemy charge phase. Then you can spend another Miracle Dice, which automatically changes to a 6 because the Diologus. Now you're doing 6 plus 2 damage. That's enough to kill a Carnifex. Just Carnifex running at you, blam, multi-melter, it dies. You can't do that on Space Marine 2. Right, since we're talking about the Diologus, let's do the Diologus. Now, last time we did this, we put the Diologus, I think, in B tier. The Diologus is Leadership 6+. Every other Battle Sister unit, apart from some of the characters, are Leadership 7+. That 1 extra leadership is important. 7 and 8 are average rolls, 6 is a good roll. That's, above average. You also get the option to undo Battle Shock. That's not something you can use for primary mission objective things with, say, okay, we're going to score at the end of the command phase. You can only use the undo Battle Shock, I think it's at the start of any phase. But that means you could have a unit that was Battle Shocked, suddenly not be Battle Shocked, and now they can complete a secondary mission, like an action. Or if it's your final turn, your turn 5, oh, my unit is Battle Shocked, undo the Battle Shock. If you're going second, you score at the end of your turn. You're not Battle Shocked, you can hold an objective. It's an overlooked ability. It's a very useful ability. I'm not saying it's like the game-winning reason to take the Diologus, but it is an ability you want to use. Nerdy girl with glasses, my beloved. Oh yeah, the original model, the metal model. Yeah, very obvious big spectacles. Big shouty face as well. I wasn't a fan of the big shouty face. But yeah, you'd have a Diologus in your, command squad for the Canoness. So we have better leadership. Leadership 6+. They have an invulnerable save. You could have them operate alone if you really wanted, if you just needed a unit. Crusaders would be better, but if you're not allowed Legends units for whatever reason, then for the same points, you can have a Diologus. Yeah, Miracle Dice. Miracle dice are a really big thing for the Battle Sisters. The Adepta Sororitas, generally, it's the army rule. You are familiar with the army rule. Imperial agents don't have an army rule. Oh boy, they sure wish they did. If we roll badly on our Miracle dice, it certainly feels like we don't have an army rule. But the Diologus can make the army rule work. It's whenever you use an act of faith. So, in most attachments, you spend a 1. Oh, that was a terrible Miracle dice. Well, actually, now it's a 6. So that can be used on so many different things. Oh, we'll just pass a leadership test. Leadership 6? Miracle dice? It becomes a 6? We've guaranteed a successful pass leadership. You've got advance rolls. It becomes a 6. You've got charge rolls. So you can put them with Sacresants. You are going to charge 6 inches. At least 6 inches plus d6. Now you've got a 7 to 12 inch charge rather than a 2 to 12 inch charge. 7 is no longer an average, it is a guarantee. And it really boosts the army of faith because every miracle dice becomes a 6. So when you're doing that twice per unit, per phase, then you are just passing armor saves. We have an invulnerable save of 6+ on Battle Sisters, on all of our units now. They are guaranteed to be successful. The enemy can be AP -6. You will pass the save. The Army of Faith is very good for endurance in the later turns of the game, if you can last that long. It's also pretty good for dealing out additional AP and lands. I like the Army of Faith. I know a lot of people don't do too well with it competitively, but it's the detachment that speaks to me the most. It has been since the Codex came out. When other people were like, ooh, Penitent Host, ooh, Brings of Flame, I was an Army of the Faith kind of person. Army of Faith is where the Diologus does well. And yep, oh look, it's Overwatch. We'll just have 2 Miracle Dice go into the squad's multi-melter. Those are successful hits. If there was a Palatine in the same Battle Sister squad, those are lethal hits. It's a successful hit roll of a 6. It auto wounds. We go straight through to damage. AP -4 goes through the enemy save. You roll damage. Either 2 random damage, like 2d6 random damage, 1d6 and then another d6, or you can do 1 Miracle Dice to make it a successful hit with Overwatch, and then spend the other Act of Faith on the damage roll. Do we want to say A tier or B tier? Looks like with a 2 to 1, I think we're pretty settled on B tier. Alright, B tier it is. Oh yeah, the Exorcist. That's a good choice. Let's do the Exorcist. I really like having an Exorcist. The Exorcist has indirect fire. That is very, very useful. What I can do is take out like half of the enemies on a home objective. So if the enemy has 5, I don't know, Chaos Legionaries on their home objective, the Exorcist might be able to take out 3 of them. And then I send in Seraphim, who clean up the rest, and then seize the objective from the enemy. It's very, very good at taking out heavy infantry. I know that the missiles are strength 10, like, oh, okay, you can wound a lot of different enemy vehicles on a 4+. That's wounding on a 4+, after you're hitting probably on a 4+. And you get d6 plus 2 shots? It's not ideal. But if you're taking out heavy infantry, like Chaos Chosen, 3 wounds, no invulnerable save, you're hitting them with AP -3, they're not really getting a save, they're probably going to die very quickly. And then they're dead, and that's great. You also cause Battle Shock, which I forget, but it is something that's quite useful to do, occasionally. Like, oh, well, I was going to cleanse this objective, oh, maybe the enemy will fail their Battle Shock test if I don't kill them with the Exorcist missile launcher. You get d6 plus 2 shots, that's between 3 and 8 shots. It's okay, it's okay. We really suffer from the indirect fire penalties. I would still recommend firing indirectly. That means your Exorcist can stay on your home objective. Your Dominions might also be there, but it's a backup unit. Because there are other indirect fire things, like Mortars, like Basilisks. They can take out 5 Dominions, they can't so much take out an Exorcist. Then you'll still control your home objective if you haven't had Battle Sisters sticky it with their Defenders of the Faith ability. The small conflagration rockets are useful for killing enemy hordes. We do not struggle with hordes. Chaos cults are our basic bread and easy to eat food. That's what they are. So we don't need to worry about having more weapons to take out them. But having a Exorcist missile launcher take out like 4 Sisters of Silence indirectly, great. That can knock the enemy off an objective. Take out their big vehicles, or their medium vehicles, or their light vehicles. Crack open rhinos and the like very early on. It's a good tank profile. If your Exorcist was damaged, then in the Hallowed Martyrs, you're getting +1 to hit. That's useful. In the Army of Faith, it's good for having 2 miracle dice on the damage. If you can get enough and good miracle dice, and you roll enough shots that hit and wound and go through to the enemy save, which they fail, then you can cause more damage. I don't think it's going to end up anywhere other than in B tier. Much as I love it, much as I wish it was better. Piano tier, yeah. Say tier, but the actual use of it is irrelevant. Yeah. They can be interested in Bringers of Flames if they have strength 11 missiles. Yeah, but remember you've got to get within 6 inches. You're rolling your artillery tank into 6 inches of the enemy. It can happen, and you get advance and shoot because everything has assault. Maybe. I wouldn't though. I really wouldn't. No, this is a B tier tank. We love it. We wish it was better. It has been better, but nowadays it's B tier. It is good. I recommend it, but probably you just want one. So since I mentioned the Castigator, we'll do the Castigator. Here's the Castigator. Temporarily, we'll put them in C tier. C for Castigator. And it means that anyone watching later and be like, we put the Castigator in C tier. Well, not where I'd put it. Skip 10 seconds later. Okay. Castigator is a little bit overcosted. Yeah, I got 10 points cheaper in June. The bonus AP is nice. It's nice. You can stack it with, say, the Immolator for ignore cover, and then you're getting AP -1, and then you could hit them with the Exorcist. Those 3 tanks go very well as a combination. I think it's nice. It's okay. It's a fine tank. It gives you heavy bolters. There's no alternate to swap out the heavy bolters. Both of the turrets are fine. You've either got the battle cannon, which is a lot of shots, damage 3, AP -1, strength 10, importantly strength 10, not strength 9 like a multi-melter. Or you got the rapid fire autocannons. If you're going to move close within 24 inches, you get 8 shots, and they are twin linked, so they have more chance of wounding. Both of those cannons are good. I have no real preference between them. If you're going to do a bit more long range shooting while the rest of your army is closer, then you want the battle cannon. If you know you're going to be on dense terrain and you're going to have to be maneuvering around different ruins to get around the corners, to get towards line of sight, then you're going to want the Castigator autocannons. There's a bolt of spam list combining Castigators and Immolation. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, Immolator, then Castigator, then fire a Battle Sister squad. Those bolters are now AP -1. Bringers of Flame, potentially strength 5 AP -1. That's very nice. Remember the rights of castigation, you just need to hit with one of your weapons, whether that's a Stormbolter or Hunter Killer Missile, or a regular heavy bolter. That works. And you do a lot of bolter shots. It's good for taking out heavy infantry. It can be okay at taking out lighter vehicles. Similar kind of situation to the Exorcist. Are we going to put it on par with the Exorcist, or are we going to put it above the Exorcist and say it's A tier because we have the rights of castigation to be AP -1? The Castigator is also relatively easy to take out. Relatively easy. It's toughness 10, not toughness 11. I know we're in like Predator territory, not Lehman Russ territory, since it is a cross between those two vehicles. It's quite nice. Okay, most people are saying A. That's like 2/3 A. We'll put it in A. Having quite a few Castigators can work as like just there for adding the rights of castigation to improve the AP. It's a very nice vehicle in a lot of detachments because it just generally works. Not in the Penitent Host. It doesn't do a lot in the Penitent Host because that is a combat detachment. I am seeing a few more Bringers of the Flame lists appearing in tournaments again. I think it was more last December when we had the Bringers of Flame nerf. Then people were like, oh, well, if they're going to nerf it so badly, I'm not playing Bringers of Flame. The people who kept playing Bringers of Flame got better with Bringers of Flame and made the Bringers of Flame work, and now more of their lists are being copied. Bringers of Flame has a win rate close to Hallowed Martyrs and the Champions of Faith. Or you can do Horde of Battle Sisters. You know my 60 Battle Sister list, which also had 6 Immolators, so we have 12 squads of 5 Sisters going around? You move on to objectives. You control the objectives with your objective control 2 bodies. And then, yeah, the enemy can take out, what, 1 unit? Are they going to split fire between 2 units? Maybe. Still your objective. That works for a lot of people. I prefer my sisters alive and protected, so I play the Army of Faith. Then we have a lot more Miracle Dice options for just saying, hey, I passed all my armor saves. My unit is still alive. I control that objective. Let's go to the next unit. I've mentioned a bunch of units. Celestian Sacresants. I have had them in C tier before. They are the unit you use in Champions of Faith. You give them a character, either a Canoness, maybe a Palatine, or a Hospitaller. It's for toughness. Generally, Battle Sisters lack for toughness. Toughness 3, that's not very good. Almost all weapons in the game are wounding you on a 3+, if not a 2+. 3+ armor save can be annoying, but it's not necessarily going to save you. If there's AP like -2, oh no, we're done for. So, Thousand Suns, Death Guard, they are very good at killing Battle Sisters, and there's not a great deal we can do about it. The Celestian Sacresants have 1 wound, don't forget that. Any amount of AP, AP1, AP2, okay, they're going down in droves. That's why you want the Hospitaller. You can bring back some models. If you throw a Miracle Dice through the Hospitaller, it's more than 1. You get a 5+ Feel No Pain, you got an invulnerable save, and you're -1 to wound. That is their unit rule, so if you're going to use them, I would say Champions of Faith or Hallowed Martyrs. Hallowed Martyrs has a couple of very nice combat stratagems. It is our other combat detachment. Righteous Vengeance, fully reroll hit rolls, and you've got Spirit of the Martyr. 2 command points, fight on death. Those are very useful for making the enemy pay as you kill them. They have halberds, they also have the mauls. I used to like the halberds because I would put a Palatine with them. That was before we saw a big rise in the Champions of Faith and units of 10 for the Celestian Sacresant. Now I think the mauls may be preferred. Damage 2 is good. You have in the Champions of Faith and the Army of Faith ways to boost that AP. Lethal hits, very useful, compensates for the Strength 4. We've said with Aestred and Agathae, that's a lot of attacks you can be getting. They're damage 2. We don't care about the low strength, we don't care about the low AP. As long as we can get lucky and roll some 6s, they're quite good, quite good. I know they're a very big part of the Champions of Faith. They're a lot like Repentia, I think. I think they're... Oh yes, they can get in and cause a lot of damage, but also they die very easily. Repentia die a lot quicker and do a lot more things, but Repentia can do so much more damage. It depends where you want to be on the survivability to damage dealing scale. Generally for the Battle Sisters, we don't do survivability too well, even though I really wish we should. I'm also hoping, like in 11th edition, we can remove the Miracle Dice and have more miracle abilities. Look at the Dark Eldar Codex that's coming out, if you've seen the leaks. Each unit has an ability to use pain tokens with. So the Palatine has one already, the Hospitaller has one already. Why not have another one that's like, okay, yeah, the Celestian Sacresants ignore a point of AP. We also have Shield of Aversion in the Bringers of Flame, but you don't want to be thinking about combat units and the Bringers of Flame detachments. Okay, I think these are a B tier unit. They are good in the Champions of Faith. They are pretty good in Hallowed Martyrs. You also want to consider like Arco-flagellants and Repentia. Having a squad of 10 is probably the best thing with a character. That's already a big points investment. That can also die when it's traveling across the battlefield. So are you adding a Rhino? That's an even bigger points investment. Maybe at that point you just want a different unit. So if instead of a small unit of 5, I wouldn't have a small unit of 5, you have 3 Arco-flagellants or Crusaders or Death Cult Assassins. If they're an Anvil, it's a 1 wound Anvil. They're just Battle Sisters that are toughness 3 and with a 3+ save. AP -1, strength 4 guns. That's like an Intercessor who gets 4 shots per model. It'll rip through them. So they're okay. They are okay. I'll put them in B tier. I can't recommend them more than B tier. Okay, next unit. Okay, we'll do Repentia. So they had a little bit of a points drop. That's good. They're still a little bit too expensive. Their cost at the moment is 75 for 5, 160 for 10. I know you'll want them if you're in the Penitent Host. Have fun with them in the Penitent Host. Mostly, if not exclusively, Penitent Host. They're not great in the Army of Faith, but they're good in Hallowed Martyrs. You have Fight on Death. You already have full rerolls to hit, so you don't need the other stratagem. Righteous Vengeance, yeah. There's Suffering and Sacrifice available, so if you can have, like, a Mortifier or Penitent Engine nearby that the enemy has to attack because you use Suffering and Sacrifice, then your Repentia will live. And I like that. So, combining the Demonofuge, who has Fight First, who has Heroic Intervention, with Repentia, that works. There are quite a few points, yes. I advocate using them in the Champions of Faith. Then you can get bonus movement. It's just 1 extra movement, but that's good. You also get 1 extra point of leadership. Their leadership is 7 with the superior. You get leadership 6. Less likely to fail battle shock. You don't get improved weapon skill or ballistic skill, but you get a lot of other stratagems. You can have extra strength, extra AP. Pile-in move of 6 inches if you needed to get them onto an objective. You could have lethal hits with Suffer Not the Unfaithful to stack with their existing sustained hits. There's nothing in this detachment that gives you criticals on a 5. That's in the Penitent Host. They can wreck things generally. I don't think they need the stratagems of the Penitent Host to work. In the Penitent Host, it's more about the Desperate for Redemption bonuses. 3 inches extra movement means you're moving 10 inches. Those are speedy ladies. You get Fight on Death on a 2+ as an alternative. Very important. Absolution in battle with the +1 attack and +1 strength is weirdly the least important one. Extra attacks are nice, but it's a lot of points on this unit. You can't have characters join them outside the Penitent Host, so you want to have them in a Rhino, or you can have them come from reserves and use a Miracle Dice on the charge roll of a 6, and then hope you roll a 3+ to make the charge. I've done that before. It's alright. The problem is whatever they hit, they'll kill. Whatever doesn't die is going to kill the Repentia. So Repentia are C tier. So they're good. Definitely Penitent Host. They can work in other detachments. But let's compare them to the Arco-flagellants. They can be a small squad of 3. Oh great, we have something that can die and give us Miracle Dice, something that can control objectives if there's nothing left. If there's nothing available to get onto an objective at the start, great, 3 Arco-flagellants it is. Towards the end of the game, if they're still alive, when you're short of units, when you've done your brawling and scrapping and you've lost your big Sacresant unit, they can still be around. Unit of 10 is really effective for taking out your Hormigants, your Cultist Hordes, and keep using that Extremist trigger word. 6 attacks is great. And you can survive any hazardous tests, because that's 3 mortal wounds per model, but you can still use Feel No Pain against hazardous tests. It's a mortal wound now rather than the model is destroyed, or the model takes 3 wounds. You take 3 mortal wounds. You can use Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, so you can survive. Arco-flagellants hadn't been doing so well because against Toughness 6 Death Guard, against teleporting around Thousand Suns, with Flamers that are Strength 5. No, Strength 4. Strength 4 Flamers. AP -1, we don't care about that. It's just a lot of Flamers. And the Knights and Chaos Knights, the Arco-flagellants had not been doing too well. Strength 5, it works pretty well against Chaos Space Marines, against Orcs. We do pretty well against Orcs. And Votan and things. +1 to wound is good, it's not always necessary. 10 Arco-flagellants by themselves can work alone. +1 to wound helps you. Still, do not charge these into vehicles. If it's a toughness 9 vehicle, you're wounding on 5s, oh well, maybe it's a 4 with the priest, but you're still AP 0 and 1 damage. The average tank is saving on a 3+. If they fail, or even half of them to get through, you're still not killing the tank. Even if you're using stratagems like Divine Guidance, +1 AP, you're still not killing a tank. Repentia can cut into hordes about as well as Arco-flagellants, and also have AP -2, which goes through their 5+ save. I still quite like Arco-flagellants. They're very fast. They can be 8-inch move if righteous in the Champions of Faith. They do like a priest. Squads of 3 are also really good. But in the Hallowed Martyrs, very good combat detachment. You can have full rerolls to hit. You have sustained hits. You can have 6 attacks per model with the Extremist trigger word. It's a lot of attacks can get through. You should be killing hordes, but I think you should be killing hordes anyway. And there's not usually that many horde enemy units, unless like that's the whole thing. Like the Chaos Cult Detachment, or Poot. Or a horde of Astra Militarum, who want the benefit of cover, which does nothing in combat. Damn Traitor Guard. B for Arco-flagellant. Bah. That looks Penitent Engine-y. We'll do Penitent Engines. These can go a lot of places also. They die... yeah, they die pretty quickly. 1,000 points is the place where they survive. Are Penitent Engines good for 1,000-point games in most attachments? Yes, absolutely. They're annoying to kill. And they have good strength weapons. Strength 10. Strength 10 seems to be our cap. It's like Games Workshop in 10th edition, like, okay, we're going to get rid of the Strength Toughness 10. Used to be capped at 10 for like all of the previous editions. That was as high as it went. And then they were like, oh no, we're going to have Toughness 13. We're going to have 24 wounds. We're going to have Strength 24. And they're like, did anyone tell the Battle Sisters about this? No, not really, no. So we go up as high as Toughness 10 and as high as Strength 10. But they rush in really well. They can advance and charge. What you need to learn is where to aim them. To hide in the first turn, not get shot, don't have them stick out in the open because they have speed. Advance and charge is speed. 8-inch movement is speed. And they can advance and charge, so they're going between 9 and 14 inches. Hello, I play Pure Strain Gene Stealers. They're also equally fast. Penitent Buzzblades are the one you want, not the Penitent Flails. We have Penitent Flails on Arco-flagellants, on other things that are like Strength 5. Sustained hits, 4 attacks. Okay, maybe we get an extra hit. They're Strength 10 and Twin Linked. That's the only way we really get above Strength 10, because of Twin Linked. So we're running on 5s, but we can reroll. Cut into the tanks, AP -3, damage 2. This will kill some heavy infantry, or upset a tank's day. And you can feed Penitent Engines at the enemy like one at a time if need be. I would have them in squads of 1 because every destroyed unit is another Miracle Dice. And if you're playing the Hallowed Martyrs, if you lose a wound on one model, you get +1 to hit. That's important when your weapon skill is 4+. If they were a squad of 2, and you take 4 wounds on one Penitent Engine, you get no bonus. Because your unit strength was 2. You have to lose a whole Penitent Engine before you get +1 to hit. And you're never going to get 2 +1 to wound, because you'll be at half strength at that point. You will not be below half strength. They're a pretty versatile unit that can take out some light infantry with their flamers, some heavy infantry with their buzzblades, damage tanks. They can definitely do their points worth wherever you put them. Overwatch? Pretty good Overwatch, yeah. Because it's essentially 4 flamers, 2 twin-linked flamers. So you get 2d6 shots, and you get to hit automatically, and you get to fully reroll the wound rolls. That's pretty good Overwatch. I think they're okay for their points cost. 75 points is fine for what they do. Mortifiers may be better. From my experience, Mortifiers are better. So Penitent Engines are going in B. They are good. I prefer Mortifiers now. So Mortifiers, they are slightly cheaper. They are tough objective holders. If the Penitent Engines points were to change at all, I would just say put them in line with the Mortifiers. The Mortifiers hit on a 3+. That's an important distinction. Oh, you got damaged in the Hallowed Martyrs? Wow, it was just like 1 mortal wound from an exploding immolator because you deliberately exploded it because you're a crazy person and you want to hurt your own troops. Well, now you're hitting on a 2+. Great. That's with your Heavy Bolters or your Penitent Buzzsaws. Heavy Bolters are good. Heavy Bolters are not worth coming out into the open for. Just to fire 2 Heavy Bolters, don't do that. You will get shot and die. I found that my enemies are very good at perfectly doing 5 wounds. Like they'll go, blam blam blam, and it just does 5 wounds. They have Fight on Death on 2+, so they're good to just put on an objective. The enemy can try and shoot them off. The enemy may have to charge them, and we may be able to do damage at the same time. I would have the Heavy Bolters better than the Flamers. Penitent Engines don't get a choice. You want to have a 3+ save on your Mortifier. You can lose 1 point of movement and be a mere movement 7. You can cope. The Penitent Engine is the fast one because it moves 8 and has advance and charge. The advance and charge is what gives it the speed. Mortifiers are okay. They can advance and charge in the Penitent host with a stratagem. Otherwise, they work all right in like every detachment. So I recommend having them. 2 come in the box. Yes, they come in boxes of 2. So you could have 1 Penitent Engine, 1 Mortifier. Or you could have 2 separate models. The cost of 2 is too similar to a Castigator. But a Castigator isn't going to rip the enemy's head off or fight on death. I think I'm okay with 2. I would put them, yeah, okay, B tier. B tier it is. The chat has decided. So, next unit. We'll do Novitiates. Because the person who said Novitiates gave me money. Sister Novitiate Squad. This is a squad that can infiltrate. Very useful ability. Or you can control the middle of the board from the start of the game. You can stop enemy infiltrators getting there. You can control an objective right away. You have a simulacrum. You could potentially generate a miracle dice in the first turn. Yeah, I think that works because the Simulacrum Imperialis, at the end of the command phase for each objective marker you control, yeah, that's fine because you control objectives at the end of any phase. So if you go first, the command phase ends, or at the end, no, the end of the command phase, you control that objective, and at the same time, the Simulacrum Imperialis will activate. So you can generate a command point from it in the first turn. Yes, that works. If I have a Novitiate with a Palatine, do they lose Infiltrate? They do indeed. Infiltrate works only if you have every model in the unit has the Infiltrate rule. That's on Infiltrate. Same as Scout. I would want to put a Palatine with the Novitiates. Probably the only character that I put with Novitiates. And then you go in an Immolator. You split them. 5 of them still infiltrate. We're still doing infiltrate-y things. You then have 5 safe Novitiates with a Palatine who's going to jump out, and you get reroll hit rolls of 1. That's the Novitiate special rule. And it's full rerolls to hit if you're attacking an enemy on objective, which doesn't really matter for the Palatine. We're doing all this for the Palatine, by the way. They're hit on a 2+ normally, but if the enemy was -1 to hit, and you have full rerolls to hit, you're going to get more hits. And that means you could, against like the really tough enemies, roll more 6s, which are lethal hits. Reroll the 5s, reroll the 4s, why not? If it's hard to wound the enemy, try and get 6s in the hit roll. Remember you hit on a 2+, so you're still likely to do it. You can split Battle Sisters, Dominions, or Novitiates with an Immolator. Where would you recommend to put the special weapons when splitting them with an Immolator? So with the Palatine, I would put the Sacred Banner, which allows you to reroll your charge rolls. Very important. Have the Superior there. Maybe... I mean, the models that are infiltrating are going to get shot or charged and die. So I would stick with the Simulacrum and 4 regular Sisters. If you want to have 2 Flamers, I would have the 2 Flamers with the Palatine. Otherwise, pure Novitiate melee weapons also works. But as long as you have the Superior and the Sacred Banner with the Palatine, it's fine. Remember that when you split a unit with an Immolator, that is a separate unit. The 2 units of 5 don't interact each other at all. And when they're destroyed, because they're a unit, that's a miracle dice. Splitting them is really good to get those miracle dice when they die. Because of all the things they can do, because of Infiltrate, because they're a very cheap unit, I think they're A tier. Recommend having them. You don't need to have them, but I recommend having them. I'm talking about the Palatine. Let's do the Palatine. Palatine, right. This is one of our characters that can do damage. A lot of the damage dealing of the Adepta Sororitas is just done by the heroines. That's why the Hallowed Martyrs is so good. You can bring the heroines back. You have Divine Intervention so that someone who died can come back. You need a Miracle Dice to make the Palatine work, so keep a Miracle Dice there. It doesn't matter the number on the Miracle Dice. It can be a 1 or a 2, which are kind of useless in this edition. Throw that into the Palatine, and then you get, for every successful wound, 1 mortal wound is caused. A successful wound is a successful wound roll that is enough to cause a wound to the enemy. So they don't need to fail their save, they could pass all the saves, and they will still take mortal wounds. Devastating wounds? Devastating wounds? No, it's just, yeah, no mortal wounds. It's 1 mortal wound from each successful wound. So if you've got 3 successful wounds, that is 3 mortal wounds on the enemy. So anything that increases her attacks is better. Anything that increases damage doesn't really matter. That's not going to increase the number of mortal wounds you're causing. However, it is good to change that damage 2 attack into damage 3. You can just stab characters. You can take out Terminators and the like. You can start having a go at smashing light tanks. So through Suffering Strength is good. The Blade of St. Eleanor is also good. That gives you precision all the time. What you do there You get some successful wounds against the enemy. Put the normal attacks against the bodyguard. Put the mortal wounds against the enemy character. If anyone has an invulnerable save, it's gonna be that enemy character. 4 successful mortal wounds, 4 wound enemy, they're dead. You've killed the character. Great. That works. Oh yes, and the Blade of St. Eleanor gives you a miracle dice when you kill an enemy. So you killed a character, you get a miracle dice. The Palatine also gives you lethal hits. That's great for her unit, be it Novitiates or whatever. But she can do rather well in a Battle Sister squad, anything that doesn't take Flamers. Because Flamers don't roll a hit roll, so Flamers can't get wound rolls. So Battle Sisters are good. Repentia in the Penitent Host attachment. Maybe Sacresants. But you already get lethal hits from the mauls. And if you have Sacresants, I prefer a Canoness or a Hospitaller. So I'd put my Palatine with regular Battle Sisters. That's a lot of shots, that's getting lethal hits. Low strength is one of the problems we have. Or you put it with Novitiates. In the Army of Faith, I put my Palatine with Battle Sisters. You can move them forward. There is now a great combat unit within that. The Palatine gives you combat. The unit generally is good at shooting. Also put a Diologus there. Then we do the thing I mentioned with the Diologus. We throw in a miracle dice. It's an automatic hit. We wound the enemy because it's a 6. We have lethal hits from the Palatine. And then we use another miracle dice on the damage roll. Now we have damage 6. It's great for just saying, that tank is going to go away now. I don't think there's any way to say anything other than the Palatine is A tier. That's where you put your smashy enhancements. The place we used to put our smashy enhancements in the previous edition was the Dogmata. Now they can be kind of fun. They improve not a lot. They worsen enemy leadership within 6 by 1. You get more objective control. We generally don't need that. It happened to work out in my game when, with Battle Sisters, who are now objective control 3 each, I was able to outscore a Bloodthirster. Now, potentially, in the Army of Faith, you can have the Divine Aspect enhancement for 5 points. So enemies that fail Battle Shock within 12 inches give you a Miracle Dice. And they're Battle Shocked, so you force a Battle Shock test. If they fail the Battle Shocked, and they give you Miracle Dice. If you're within 6 inches, it's -1 leadership. It still may not matter. The combat enhancements that would have gone on her, that can still go on her, put them on a Canoness or a Palatine. Those characters cost 50 points. The Diologus costs 40 points and is a very useful, leadership unit. The Dogmata is 45 points and doesn't do what either of them do. I think they should have, the Penitent keyword. Like the Preacher does. Yeah, it's a not great unit. It's going in D tier. So, moving on from the Dogmata. Hospitaller. It can be a struggle to justify a Hospitaller. On a Battle Sister squad, if you're playing small point games like 500 points, 1000 points, 1500 points, Hospitallers are useful. There are far fewer enemy units that will go and just wipe out a unit. I clicked my fingers, I don't know if that came through on the audio. So, Hospitaller is very useful for that 5+ feel no pain. One model comes back all of the time. If you spend a Miracle Dice, you get D3 +1 models. That can just restore us whole squad. That's great. That's great. They go well with Sacresants. We know very well with Sacresants, because then you get 5+ feel no pain, -1 to wound, and you restore models. So with a squad of 10 Sacresants, that's good. That's good. Your squad is going to cost about 180 points. It's not ideal, but it's a Champions of Faith combo that can work nicely. The Champions of Faith is also a detachment that works really well in low point values. 1000 points, you have 7 units, 3 of them are righteous at any one time. That does well. When you're going to 1500 points, 2000 points, it's less effective. And maybe you want the Hallowed Martyrs there. Okay, A tier. A tier she is. You can't have Hospitallers and Battle Sisters and Imagifiers together. The Imagifiers and the Hospitallers can only double up in Battle Sister squads with a Canoness or Palatine or some of the special characters. They can't double up with each other. So you can't have a 2+ invulnerable save and a 5+ feel no pain in the same unit. Nice idea, doesn't work. But let's talk about this Imagifier. Right, let's assume for now that the -10 points is correct. Even though they're still listed at 65 points, 55 points sounds correct. I requested it in my predictions for the balance patch, so Why does it not happen? It should happen. We should have that. So we've got, right, Imagifier. You get a 2+ save. Now we're getting some really tough battle sisters. Yeah? Those are hard to kill. Now your light infantry shots, even AP -1, you're going to survive. Because you have a 2+ save. And the whole unit has a 4+ invulnerable save. You don't really want this on Sacresants, you'll be fine with any other character. Hospitaller, Canoness, Palatine, potentially. But putting a Imagifier on a Battle Sister squad, it's already a squad of 10. You're not going to split it. You're not going to split it with like an Immolator. You don't really need to put them in a Rhino. You can just keep moving up the battlefield. Even in the Bringers of Flame. They do very well in the Bringers of Flame. Because you can advance and shoot. Also in the Bringers of Flame we have the Shield of Aversion stratagem. You ignore 1 point of armor penetration. That AP -1 is now AP 0. All of your sisters have a 2+ save. Oh me, oh my. We have to assume for the moment, because it's on the app, because it's on the website, that the Imagifier is 65 points. When played at 55 points, is good. We are in a bit of a limbo at the moment. I think for that reason, I'll put them in B tier. They're pretty good. It's fine in a Battle Sister squad, especially when you want to get onto an objective and stay on that objective, and survive on that objective. That 2+ save isn't just against shooting, it's in combat, it's all the time. A lot of enemies do not like that. There's the Ko-fi link in the description if you want to give me some birthday money or tips generally, or if you want to book a one-to-one coaching and I can help you with your army list, I'm happy to do that. And if you want some discount brushes, Golden Maple paint brushes are 15% off if you use my code Vtuber. That's all in the description. Okay, Celestine. We have had a points drop on our Blessed Lady who gets back up. A points drop of a whole, 10 points. Wow, okay. So she's 150 points now. That's still kind of high. A lot of what Celestine had going for her was taken away by the jump pack Canoness. Saint Celestine doesn't add much. She slowly resurrects the unit, really requiring a squad of 10, so it's okay in the Hallowed Martyrs where, we've got like a couple of casualties. We get +1 to hit. That's good. You can't choose not to cry. She's always going to do it. It's not like an optional thing. You'd return a Gemini or D3 bodyguard models. It's not optional the way the Hospitaller is optional. Yeah, Hospitaller is you can return a model. Saint Celestine, you must. She is a crying lady. She's going to cry no matter what. It's a unit ability, yeah, so you can use it off the battlefield if you had the stratagem Angelic Descent. That takes her off the board. A lot of her use is usually by herself. Now you can put her with Seraphim, then she gets the Seraphim ability to move after shooting. Because with that one, it says all models in the unit. Like, this unit does the thing. It's not like just Seraphim models. You could put it with Zephyrim. You get sustained hits or lethal hits, and her Ardent Blade would sure love that. She's very expensive though. Celestine still costs the same as 5 Zephyrim and a jump pack Canoness. So have her by herself, with the 2 Gemini. As she is not an attached unit, you can have the wounds assigned to Celestine. She has 5 wounds. She has a 4+ invulnerable save, 2+ save, which is the same as the Gemini, yes. But that's a lot more wounds. And while there's a Gemini alive, Celestine has a 4+ feel no pain. You don't like reassign wounds to the Gemini? It's just a 4+ feel no pain. So as long as she's not in an attached unit, which she's not unless you put her with Seraphim or Zephyrim, assign wounds to Celestine. She survives a lot more wounds because of that 4+ feel no pain. Then she dies. On a 2+, she gets back up, rejoining the Gemini. After that, lose the Gemini, try and get them back if you can, but otherwise go through the Gemini and then go through Celestine, is what I'd recommend. You prefer losing one Gemini first, then going for Celestine, maxing use of the tiers? Yeah, I could see that. That can work. So lose a Gemini, then go for Celestine. As long as there's one Gemini left, Celestine gets back up, rejoins her Gemini, cries, brings back the other Gemini. That could be irritating. That's probably the best way to do it. Right. She's a B tier unit. She's still quite expensive. and doesn't do as much as the Canoness with Jump Pack. Oh look, we're doing the Canoness with Jump Pack next. Stratagems cost 1 fewer command point. Very useful in the Bringers of Flame for those stratagems that did cost 2 command points, now cost 1. Cleansing Flames. Turn up with Seraphim. All of your torrent weapons, which is a lot of hand flamers, have devastating wounds. Now it's 1 command point. Shield of Aversion. Ignore a point of armor penetration. That's just free. Grenades. Keep using your grenades. Because we have not great strength compared to the toughness of enemies, use grenades. 3 to 6 mortal wound, well, no, 0 to 6 mortal wounds, averaging 3 mortal wounds. Sometimes you get 1, sometimes you get 5. It can be very useful, and if it's free, just do it. Throw grenades. That's what they're for. In the Army of Faith, Blinding Radiance. For free, that's an aura of -1 to hit from a Jump Pack unit. She's a Jump Pack unit, as is the Seraphim or Zephyrim she joins. Pretty good with the Zephyrim. Their special ability, Embodied Prophecy, you always get sustained hits 1 or lethal hits, and that affects all weapons on all models in the unit. That is not how the Codex has it written, but that's the rule currently. So if you have your Jump Canoness with a Halberd, have sustained hits, or lethal hits, whatever you need at the time. The Canoness with Jump Pack is also very useful because of her speed. Throw on a defensive enhancement like the Mantle of Ophelia. She's hard to kill. She can complete missions by herself and has the speed to do so, moving 12 inches. Only 3 wounds, which is not great. Dies easily. In the Hallowed Martyrs, you can bring her back. The thing you want to do in the Hallowed Martyrs is just save loads of command points for, oh no, I lost a unit in this phase. Time to bring back the character. And keep it going. That means you can hold an objective when you otherwise would get shot off it. You can keep the enemy not quite tied up in combat because you respawn out of combat, but you can immediately charge back in your turn. Very versatile, very useful. A tier. Right, those Zephyrim. So they have had their boost recently to get the sustained hits or lethal hits on all of the weapons of all the models. So you can be led by Celestine and she'll get the sustained hits or lethal hits. You could be led by a Jump Canoness and yeah, you will get those bonuses to that Jump Pack Canoness as well. They're still quite expensive. I still don't think they compare well to Seraphim. You can have a squad of 5 Zephyrim drop in and complete missions. They are Jump Pack units. Seraphim can do that also, and Seraphim can shoot things if need be. If you don't get, like, Established Locus, well, anything that needs an action in the enemy deployment zone, great. Either of them could do that, but if it's not that, if it's, like, behind enemy lines, Seraphim can be there and also shoot. Now, the Zephyrim do have a Sacred Banner to reroll their charge rolls. That's okay to get them in. They don't seem to do too much damage for me. Unless you're like having a squad of 10 and a character and you're throwing stratagems on them for like full rerolls to hit in Hallowed Martyrs. It's not great. Like a squad of 5 is a good delivery method for characters. For like a Jump Canoness, for Celestine. But at the same price as Seraphim, I prefer the Seraphim. Doing the Seraphim next. Seraphim. I'm just going to put them up there now. Seraphim are lovely, one of my favourite units, always have been. Even without the Bringers of Flame, where you've got, oh no, I need to spend an extra command point to have devastating wounds on 1,000,000 hand flamer shots. And we only get the bonus strength if we're in 6 inches, not 12 inches, so you can't just derive from Deep Strike and be strength 5 on those hand flamers and bolt pistols. They move after shooting, they are very fast. So in the Bringers of Flame, move out of your deployment zone 12 inches, advance and shoot, because everything has assault in the Bringers of Flame detachment, and then move again. You can go like 24 inches with that unit. That is absurd. You are crossing the battlefield. That is your deployment zone to the enemy deployment zone. That's your home objective to the enemy home objective. Counterattack with hand flamers or counterattack with inferno pistols. See, a lot of people take the hand flamers because they have the longer range, so when coming from deep strike, yes, you can hurt things which you couldn't with the 6-inch range of the inferno pistols. But with the speed that the Bringers of Flame has, the speed that the Seraphim have, Inferno pistols are very good for taking out heavy infantry. You get 2 shots, they're strength 8, so they're wounding on 2s or 3s, and it's D3 damage. So you can just knock out a Terminator, especially if you get within 3 inches, then you have Melter 2, you're guaranteed to do 3 damage. Now you are taking out heavy intercessors, Chaos Possessed, Chaos Havocs, things like that. I still recommend having Inferno pistols, but if you're deep striking, I would have the Hand Flamers, yes. The Seraphim are also really, really good in my Army of Faith. 10 Seraphim can cover like half my army, if not my entire army, in a -1 to be hit stratagem. The enemy shoots me. Great, my entire army essentially has stealth. They're an A-tier unit. Let's just do the Shrine. Shrine still exists. Shrine is there, it's a Legends unit. Does that break it? Does that mean that we can actually have something that is toughness 11? Yeah, the Battle Sanctum is toughness 11. Cannot move, has no objective control, and I don't think there's any way to boost that. You get cover, you can perform an additional act of faith. If you want to perform an additional act of faith, play Army of Faith. Great, there's a Battle Sanctum. We'll do the basic Canoness. They make your stratagems cheaper. I love having a Canoness in the Army of Faith. Oh, look at that, we have an extra point of AP. Oh, look at that, just casually, my unit is -1 to be hit. Great for Celestian Sacresants, great for regular Battle Sisters, and grenades. Remember I've said grenades? Grenades. Also very good in the Hallowed Martyrs, just because it's a character. They have a once per game 2+ invulnerable save. That can be a pain. I'll stand on an objective. You are not shifting me off this objective. If I die in the Hallowed Martyrs, bring her back. You won't get back that 2+ invulnerable save again. It's the same model getting back up, rather than a new model. Canoness is versatile, good damage dealer, good weapon selection, yes. That 2+ invulnerable save is good. That 2+ invulnerable save, remember, has to be declared at the start of a phase. So the enemy hasn't shot you, you declare you're using it or not. If you say you're using it, then the enemy could be like, great, I'm just going to ignore you for this phase and shoot other things. That's fine. That's almost the same as the enemy shooting you and you passing all of your invulnerable saves and surviving. Very good for, oh, I've got precision attacks, just so you know. Well, I'll pop it anyway, and maybe the Lictor will just go for the regular squad. Fine. The Canoness lives. It's also good for getting in combat. Maybe use Epic Challenge, use her Blessed Blade, or Power Weapon, kill the enemy character, and survive. Keep that enemy unit tied up for an extra turn. She's good working by herself. Her 2 abilities, Sacred Command and the Emperor's Grace, don't require a unit to use those abilities. She can be operating by herself. Pretty good to just wander around completing actions. Secondary missions, holding objectives. I've seen quite a few Hallowed Martyrs lists that are just tanks and characters, and it's weird, but it does work. I think it's a bit janky, but it works. It works. Your weapon options, you can have an Inferno Pistol, good choice. Longer range Condemner Bolt Gun. You got a Plasma Pistol. If you have the Plasma Pistol and also the Power Weapon, then you can have the Rod of Office, then your unit gets to reroll hit rolls of 1. That's good with the Celestian Sacresants. I wouldn't bother with the Nolan Rod, but the Blessed Blade, Strength 6 and lethal hits at AP -2, 2 damage. Yeah, that's good. That's good. You could activate your 2+ invulnerable save, and then use Suffering and Sacrifice, is it called? Enemy models that can attack your Canoness must attack your Canoness. So you can keep like a more valuable unit like Repentia alive. Yeah. And that's free, of course, because the Canoness makes stratagems 1 command point fewer, once per battle round, of course. So you get less out of her if you also have her and another Canoness, or her and a jump Canoness. It's the same ability with the same name. Okay, yes, she's an A-tier. Junith Eruita. Okay, you can with Junith spend a miracle dice to generate a command point. Command points are great. Or you can use her leadership. Her leadership is a 6+. Most of the time you're going to get a command point. In the early game, when you haven't got miracle dice to spend, I would just roll it and hope the dice are on your side. In the later game, when you have loads of rubbish miracle dice, if she's still around, throw a miracle dice into her to get that command point to keep you going in the later game. Her unit is -1 to be hit. I've seen Junith run alone, and that's not awful. Her toughness 5 will then work, rather than using the bodyguard toughness 3. It's always toughness 3, we're Battle Sisters, come on. She's only okay in combat. The Mace of Castigation is similar to the Blessed Blade of the Canoness. Strength 6, AP -2, 2 damage, 4 attacks, no lethal hits. Nice to keep a unit more alive, like Battle Sisters. She's probably B tier. She's very good in the Army of Faith because the Army of Faith wants a lot of command points. Hallowed Martyrs doesn't need as many. Champions of Faith, it's nice to have, certainly. Bringers of Flame doesn't need so many. That very much relies on the detachment roll. A Heavy Flamer. You got a Heavy Flamer. It's a nice Heavy Flamer. Twin linked. D6 shots. Good. Nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't say, oh, let's do something crazy and put her with Retributors and have 5 Flamers going around. She would get the benefit of like the reroll hit rolls of 1 and the +1 to wound. I mean, it's not the craziest idea. We've seen crazier. We've seen crazier tonight. I don't recommend it though. You're not really keeping the Retributors alive that much longer. So she can generate a command point, but the Canoness guarantees cheaper stratagems and multiple times. I think that's the only reason that I would say, yeah, we'll put Junith in B tier. Yep. If anyone wants help with their own personal army list, what to buy next, what to paint in certain ways, how the lore works of Battle Sisters, I have a one-to-one coaching that can be on any of those things. It's available, it does cost money because I don't want to be overwhelmed with requests, and found just putting a small price tag on it means it goes from like 100 requests a month to like 15 requests a month, a very manageable amount. So at the Ko-fi link in the description, it's one-to-one coaching, it's like 20 quid. What you think may be a bad army list can actually work. 60 Battle Sisters sounds stupid, but I made it work. Ephriel Stern, there she is. With Ablative Elf, spare person, carrying a meat shield. So she has Deep Strike. That's a pretty cheap unit for secondaries. A much smaller footprint than 5 Zephyrim or 5 Seraphim. You can drop her in where need be and do Sabotage in the enemy deployment zone. Do Establish Locus, do behind enemy lines, why not? Against Chaos units especially, her precision is really good. Ephriel Stern works rather well. She's not jump pack, so doesn't do great in the Army of Faith. She's good against Chaos units, but really, really good in the Hallowed Martyrs. You can use Suffering and Sacrifice. She has free heroic intervention. Jump her into combat, protect Repentia. Then hold up Kaiganil to be smashed. With Suffering and Sacrifice, all the attacks go onto that unit. Jump Canoness is a little bit cheaper. I'm going to put her in B tier. Useful in quite a few detachments, just generally useful. Especially good in the Hallowed Martyrs. So if you're playing Hallowed Martyrs, I recommend having her. The Hallowed Martyrs likes a lot of characters. I mean, the Hallowed Martyrs, because of that Resurrection stratagem, did you know that is something that you can do on our Lord of Terror? Big lady in big armor with big spear. Her. This lady. Movenn Vahl. So, very good character. We want to have a Movenn Vahl. You almost always want to have a Movenn Vahl in your army. I'm just going to put her in A tier for now. She is part of why the Hallowed Martyrs and the Champions of Faith are doing so well. So you need to have her with Paragon Warsuits, which is what you're doing, because only while leading a unit do you get full rerolls to hit, full rerolls to wound. That works on combat weapons, shooting weapons, all of them. It's great. And in the Hallowed Martyrs, oh, you've lost a Battle Sister. Great, you're now hitting on a 2+ with the Paragon Warsuits and rerolling those hit rolls. In the Champions of Faith, you can make them righteous. Then they hit on a 2+, you don't need to lose anyone. Very good. When she hits people with the Lance of Illumination, you get some miracle dice. You need to kill a unit with her specifically. Her attacks. She has to be the one that destroys the unit, an enemy unit destroyed by this model. So if a Paragon Warsuit unit is the one that destroys an enemy unit, that isn't an extra miracle dice. She's very, very good, and can get back up with Divine Intervention. If you have her set up again with 3 wounds, that is below half strength. Her bodyguard's going to be destroyed by then, all the Paragon Warsuits. Then you have Movenn Vahl with +1 to hit, hitting on a 2+ anyway, and +1 to wound on all of her guns. Very nice. But what she does most is she makes the Paragon Warsuits deal a lot of damage. Paragon Warsuits are like our main damage dealer. They're especially good at taking out monsters and vehicles. What does the rest of the army struggle with? Monsters and vehicles. The Paragon Warsuits give you +1 to hit and +1 to wound against those monsters and vehicles. You don't need the Hallowed Martyr stuff for that. You don't need the Champions of Faith +1 ballistic skill. Any detachment will want Paragon Warsuits to deal with those things. Even the Penitent Host, especially the Penitent Host. Repentia are dealing with heavy infantry. Arco-flagellants are dealing with light infantry. The Paragon Warsuits need to be there to take out the big things. These are a lot like Terminators. Let's not call them Centurions. Let's not insult them in that way. But they're packing multi-melters and missiles, so if you were to compare them to Centurions, they're better than Centurions. You want to have them with Movenn Vahl, but they work okay without Movenn Vahl. If you're going to have a unit without Movenn Vahl, I would say only do it in the Champions of Faith. Because in the Champions of Faith, you can make them righteous, you're hitting on a 2+, heavy infantry will still die very nastily. What you need to do is keep them safe. Always keep them safe. They are surprisingly fragile because their stat line, despite them being vehicles and they are able to shoot while in combat, they're like a Terminator. They're just a slightly tougher, wounded on a 5+ by common strength 4 things. Oh wait, that's exactly the same as the Terminator. Heavy bolters are okay. Heavy bolters with +1 to hit and +1 to wound is valuable against light vehicles like the Dark Eldar. But please just have multi-melters. Move closer, stay in cover, and then strike on like turn 2, turn 3. Multi-melters are sort of the closest we have to anti-vehicle units, anti-vehicle weapons. You're usually wounding on a 4 or a 5. With the Paragon Warsuits ability of +1 to hit and wound against monsters and vehicles, now you're getting a decent roll. And don't forget those missiles. The Paragon grenade launchers. Strength 9, same as the multi-melters. AP -2 rather than AP -4, D3 damage instead of D6 damage. Twin linked though. They're twin linked. So as long as you hit, which you're hitting on a 2+, enemy vehicles are wounded now on a 3+, which you can reroll because you're twin linked. This is why a unit of Paragon Warsuits can work without Vahl. Vahl cannot work without Paragon Warsuits. Not really well, unless you could have at 1,000 points, but at 1,000 points, a couple of Mortifiers or Penitent Engines will do the similar job of being big and distracting and pretty good in combat. Because you're not getting Vahl's rerolls when she's by herself. Not every tournament list has Paragon Warsuits, but they crop up a lot with Movenn Vahl. Anyway, these are an A tier unit. Yeah. Have them in like all of your detachments. Bringers of Flame, they can advance and shoot. Wonderful. You have decent combat weapons as well. You have the Warblade, which is damage 2. You have the War Mace, which is damage 3. If you can boost that AP up from AP -1, great. Although, if there's an enemy invulnerable save, AP -1, AP -2 is usually all you need. Because then you're hitting that invulnerable save. 3+, 4+, AP -1 is perfectly fine. What about Sister Superior Aveline? She's a character with Lone Operative. Great. She's slightly cheaper than Death Cult Assassins, who are also Lone Operatives. I think I've had one go at using her rerolls to hit and wound. Didn't really matter. She is not designed for combat. I think she's A tier or B tier. Lone Operative, she's there, she's by herself. That can be gotten around just by getting close, and she doesn't last very long once she gets hit. She has 4 wounds, which is nice. 6 up, feel no pain. Hey, maybe you get lucky. She's not doing a great deal. I think you're perfectly fine with other things, like 2 Death Cult Assassins, then she can't be taken out by 1 las cannon shot. A Canoness also does the job fine if you want someone just wandering around. So, Death Cult Assassins. We're talking about Death Cult Assassins. Death Cult Assassins are assassins. Good, yes. They have Lone Operative. They are perfect for missions more than assassination missions. They can hold objectives out in the open unless the enemy gets close, in which case they die, but they're not going to get casually shot off to like stop an action. If you're able to take out the enemy on one flank, they can then hold objectives on that flank. They're also pretty good for just sitting on the home objective. Great, denies enemy deep strike. Enemies can't shoot you with indirect fire weapons. Very good. They can infiltrate. As infiltrators, they can stop enemy infiltrators. They are cheaper than Novitiates, because Novitiates are 100 points for 10 models. The Assassins are 55 points for, like, a squad. You can have the 2 squads of Novitiates that are, like, 50 points for 5, but then you need the Immolator. That's, like, calculating the different points values. You can try and assassinate people with the Assassins. You might get lucky and hurt a character. Things like Demon Princes are still characters. You can reroll wound rolls against them. I think they're going to be a, at most, B tier unit. Aveline is a bit cheaper, also Lone Operative, but you can only have 1 Aveline. Crusaders to hold objectives and things are still cheaper. Arco-flagellants, 3 Arco-flagellants are cheaper as the other, obvious objective sitter that isn't a Battle Sister squad. So yeah, B tier. The Rhino. Let's go with the Rhino. Well, it's the cheapest transport, which is a great way to get into combat, to get close to shooting, especially in the Bringers of Flame. then we're not spending any command points on rapid ingress. Repentia like them. Retributors could go in them. You have a firing deck. You don't have a firing deck in an Immolator. This is another reason to put the Retributors in a Rhino, not the more expensive Immolator. You want to split units with the Immolator, you don't need to do that with the Rhino. You have a firing deck, so you've got 2 multi-melters firing from the top of the Rhino. You can fit more than one unit in the transport. Carry 3 Arco-flagellants or Crusaders or a character in there that you want to drop off on an objective and complete a mission. The rest of the army keeps pushing forward. You get your short-range guns into the enemy. This is how Bringers of Flame work. Rhino is great in Bringers of Flame. You usually have to use the vehicles to make that vehicle detachment work now. The Stormbolter on the Rhino is only damage 1, whereas the Stormbolters are damage 2 almost anywhere else. The Rhino is cheap. The Rhino is good. It doesn't die to small arms. It can complete primary and secondary missions. It's a unit. It's good for them. When I was playing the Bringers of Flame, I would have the unit that was inside get out and control an objective and shoot a thing. The Rhino would complete an action on the objective. Or the Rhino is a great thing to just block the enemy because of its size. Now it's in the way. Oh, you're going to get your unit through that alleyway? No, you're not. There's a Rhino there now. Right, I think the Rhino is an A-tier unit. They do a lot in all the detachments. Penitent Host gets your units there. It's the key thing in the Bringers of Flame. I'm not opposed to one in the Army of Faith or the Champions of Faith. The Of Faith detachments. They can still block and complete actions, and they're cheap enough to do so and not get casually shot out the way by light arms fire the way any other battle sister is. So let's do the Immolator. The Immolator has a similar role. Yeah, they can still do actions. They can still get in the way. Good for blocking to stop enemies getting to the unit that just got out. The value of the Immolator is in the units it splits. If you can split a unit, you get 2 units. That means that when they each die, you get a miracle dice from each of them. That's turning 2 units into 3 units. That's turning 2 miracle dice into 3 miracle dice. It's more units to do actions. It's more units to get in the way of the enemy. Sometimes you have to do that as the Adepta Sororitas. It can't all be, okay, here's my Movenn Vahl Paragon Warsuit block, here's my Celestian Sacresants block. You've got to have a lot of regular sisters going around doing the actual missions to complete it so you win the game. Yeah, splitting units is great for the Dominions especially, because then the Dominion with the Simulacra Imperialis can stay on an objective, like your home objective, and keep trying to generate miracle dice. You roll a d6. On a 1 to 3 you get nothing, on a 4 you get a 4, on a 5 you get a 5, on a 6 you get a 6 as a miracle dice. The other half are the ones with the special weapons. They can move in the Immolator. Now the Immolator scouts, because they have scout, they can jump out when required and melt an enemy. Very good in the Bringers of Flame. Very good generally. They're great for splitting Novitiates. Now you have Novitiates with a Palatine in the Immolator. The other Novitiates are infiltrating. They're blocking enemy infiltrators. They're potentially getting miracle dice. They're potentially completing missions at the start of the game. I try and have them infiltrate towards the center of the board. There are more missions about the center of the board than like the side objectives in No Man's Land. Depends if you're playing like Crusade missions as well. Characters can confuse people. So you split a unit before the game starts, promising to put half of them in the Immolator. Then you attach characters. You can have a character to each of the units. You have to split the unit 5 and 5, and you can only split Sisters, Dominions, and Novitiates. It's all there in the Immolator rules, but people miss it, or forget it, or think there's ways around it, and there isn't. This means that Aestred and Agathae cannot go in an Immolator because you do not split Aestred and Agathae by the Immolator. You split a Dominion squad into 2 squads of 5, then you add Aestred and Agathae. That can't go with the Dominions in the Immolator because that's 5 plus 2, which is more than 6. Is that too many numbers to cope with? Immolator also removes cover. That's a great ability to have. If we want to have anything that's AP-1, we stay at AP-1 against those enemies. Combines with the Castigator pretty well. Ignores cover for the Exorcist. Exorcist would be -1 AP if firing indirectly because enemies always get the benefit of cover. You can remove that. You have Heavy Flamers to auto-hit and provide that, or you got Multi-Melters. They're Twin-Link Multi-Melters. You get to reroll the wound rolls. Good, let's do that one. I mean, we don't need like 3 different Immolator profiles depending on if it has Heavy Bolters, Heavy Flamers, or Multi-Melters. But I just wish the guns had different point cost. As they don't, Immolation Flamers are pretty good. Nice guns. Multi-Melters work best. You can hit with the Heavy Bolter. Don't forget the basic Heavy Bolter. They all have a Heavy Bolter in the front, and that Heavy Bolter can be the one that provides the Purge and Cleanse ability. You just need to hit with one thing. That could even be a hunter-killer missile. Don't be silly, you know you're going to roll a 1. It's an A-tier unit. It does like 3 cool things. It transports units, it splits units, it removes cover. Yeah, you can use at least 2 of those in any one game. Right, the Repressor. It's a Bringers of Flame transport, it's good, it's an expensive transport, especially when you compare it to the Immolator or the Rhino. So the Immolator is 115 points, the Rhino's 75 points, the Repressor comes in at 130 points. More expensive than an Immolator. You probably want to just use this as an Immolator. You get 1 more wound compared to an Immolator, but otherwise I would just have an Immolator. It can fit 12 models, has firing deck 6. Immolators don't have firing deck, Repressor has a firing deck. You could fire Dominions, Melter Guns from inside. Dominions would be great because then you can scout with it. That used to be the great tactic. Repressor scouts, everyone inside shoots, Dominions keep going. Yeah, you don't even need to get them out. But if you did get them out, remember the Dominions have their own reactive move, Righteous Awareness, to get back inside. You have quite a few guns, Repressor Twin Heavy Flamer, which is only 12-inch range. You can have an extra Heavy Flamer. It's an okay tank. Let's do the Crusaders. I'm pretty sure the Crusaders want to go straight up into A tier. Right, these are 2 wound Celestian Sacresants essentially, but they also have 2 damage swords. It's like they've got Space Marine power swords. That's the sort of thing you get from like Blade Guard. Crusaders are pretty good. They're 20 points each. We're still cheaper than Blade Guard. That's nice. 4+ Feel No Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. Good. You can attach them to any unit that can be attached to a Battle Sister squad. So you can have them with a 2+ save with an Imagifier. You can heal them up with a Hospitaller. You can have a Canoness taking them into battle. It's 2 or 4 of them. There's no longer 6. But 2 is usually what you want. These aren't really a stabby unit. You could stick them with a Palatine just so the Palatine gets lethal hits. That's really cheap. You maybe want to attach 2 of them to the Triumph of St. Catherine. Triumph of St. Catherine can lead Battle Sisters, therefore the Triumph of St. Catherine can lead the Crusaders. That's just having some wounds that the enemy needs to get through before they can hurt the Triumph. They're a cheap bodyguard, they're a cheap objective controller. You can leave them on their home objective and scout forward with the half Dominion squad you've got and try and control that and start generating Miracle Ice on the central objective. Good, that's speed. Or you can have them near to the objective and you stickied it with the Battle Sisters. If there's no enemy stratagem or ability that lets them deep strike within 6 inches of you, have them stand slightly off the objective. 9 inches will still keep enemies deep striking off the objective. They can't just land and it'll be fine. 6 inches, no, because the objective markers are 6 inches wide plus 40 millimeters. So they could land on that. Right, yeah, Crusaders are A tier, more for the cheapness than anything. Don't be discounting Legends units. I've also seen a weird thought that people are like, okay, well, Games Workshop has a small amount of time, or they don't have enough rules writers, or evidently don't have enough rules writers. If they just forgot about the Legends units, not saying they already have, but if they ignored all the Legends units and stopped doing these Black Library things and forget all of that, then they would have more time to focus on the competitive scene. And that's such a weird mindset, the idea that if we make someone have less, that will be somehow better. There's no promise that if Legends disappeared, then the tournament scene would get more focus. Remember, tournament players are a minority of players. It's wishful thinking that just because someone is worse off, that you will be better off. You will not be better off. The guaranteed thing is someone who likes Legends will be worse off. Don't wish for bad things to happen to other people in the hope of good things happening to you. Okay, I'm going to do the Battle Sisters. Annoyingly, the Battle Sisters have some of the worst models to put together. Really bad. And you drop them and it shatters into 500 pieces and you're like, I wish I had dropped a vase. It would have been easier to find all the bits and put them back together. They can have 2 characters. They're the only unit that can have 2 characters. A Defenders of the Faith. Sticky objectives. Wonderful to have. We want that at 1,000 points. We want that at 2,000 points. Any game size, we want that. Sticky the home objective. Even if you're just going to leave Dominions on there, start at least 1 Battle System model on that objective before you move forward. Then you have an extra thing in place just in case the Dominions get taken out by Mortifier. Something indirect. They have a Simulacrum. That gets you Miracle Dice. In different detachments, Bringers of Flame potentially. Army of Faith, if you have the right characters. These are a damage dealing unit. 105 points for 10 models. Twice as many models as the Retributors. I know I said I wouldn't do mathematics anymore, but too bad. There's mild multiplications, 5 times 2, or 10 divided by 5. 2, yeah, that's how it works. Sticky objectives. Objective control 2. That's very useful for getting onto objectives, controlling objectives, and if an enemy unit tries to push you off the objective, you can use Miracle Dice or a Hospitaller or an Imagifier to survive, and then you still control the objective. Elite enemy units tend to be smaller, and only objective control 1. There's a battle line bonus for the incursion in the 2025-2026 mission deck. You can complete actions and shoot, or complete an action after advancing if you are battle line. 60 battle sisters is something that works. Immolators can split your units, then you get more units. When they die, you get miracle dice. They can have units that fight, you can have units that die and control objectives and get you miracle dice. Yes, they're very good. We like the battle sisters. So they're A tier. Now I'm going to do the Triumph of St. Catherine. Ooh, yeah, this is an awkward one. I used to have the Triumph of St. Catherine just in my Penitent Host list. Then from playing it enough times, I don't need the auto-generated 6 anymore. One of the enhancements in the Penitent Host gives you a 6 of a Miracle Dice whenever one of your Penitent units destroys an enemy unit. That's fine, there's our 6 for charge rolls. We need 6s to complete charge rolls. It's nice to have the auras. There's various auras to pick from. The one you almost certainly want is the Fiery Heart. That's the band before they became known as Our Martyred Lady. You get 2 extra inches of movement, and you get +1 to advance and charge. Great in the Bringers of Flame. Great in the Penitent Host. We've also got 2 Acts of Faith per phase instead of 1 from the Ebon Chalice. You may want that. You may want that. Or you can just play the Army of Faith. Reroll wound rolls of 1 on ranged attacks. Again, very useful in the Bringers of Flame because you're going to be shooting. Or you have the Petals of the Bloody Rose. That's in combat, +1 AP. Rather useful in the Penitent Host where you're pushing everything in combat. Same for Hallowed Martyrs. This is good. And this is a character. So you can use the Hallowed Martyrs stratagem, Divine Intervention, to bring back the Triumph of St. Catherine. 18 wounds. Well, it'll go back to like 1 to 3 wounds when you use Divine Intervention. But 18 wounds is a lot to get through. That's like nearly twice a Battle Sister squad. But it's still 3+ save, toughness 3. So don't expect it to last longer than 2 Battle Sister squads. And you can't double up with a Triumph and a Hospitaller to try and keep it alive. You get 18 attacks that are AP -2, Strength 5, that's very good. Damage 1 is the less okay bit, but the Triumph of St. Catherine can take out enemy hordes by herself. Remember, its auras also affect itself, so it can make itself an extra AP in combat, so it's AP -3. They're pretty good in the Bringers of Flame. They're pretty good in the Penitent Host. I'm happy to put them in C tier. The Priest. Okay, Ministorum Priest. They were amazing in the Index when you could put them with the Arco-flagellants, and Arco-flagellants were just extra amazing. You can have the Ministorum Priest work in a lot of detachments. You don't need to just have them in the Penitent Host where they carry enhancements that you attach to, like Arco-flagellants. +1 to wound is very good. You need the right combat unit. Sanctifiers, yeah, it's alright. They're not really a combat unit anyway. You don't need that. Novitiates want to just be by themselves or with a Palatine. More for the Palatine than the Novitiates. With a Dominion, you've got a Flamer and a little bit of combat power. With Battle Sisters, you've got a Flamer and a little bit of combat power, but I would take a Palatine or a Canoness instead. So Arco-flagellants are the place to put them. +1 to wound. Arco-flagellants, well, we've got Strength 5. You're wounding a lot of things on like 3s or 4s. You can push that to 2s. +1 to wound is pretty good. I'm finding more and more, as I've been playing a lot more Penitent Host, no particular reason of course, then I don't need that +1 to wound. I can shred through enemy infantry without it, when I have Arco-flagellants, when they're doing their job, when they're hitting the right enemy. And if they're not hitting the right enemy, +1 to wound doesn't do a lot, because Arco-flagellants are AP 0. And 1 damage. You're not going to be cutting through tanks with that. There's no way to get them devastating wounds. You can be 1 extra Flamer in the Sanctifiers. I think they've dropped a bit for me, these Ministorum Priests. You can have them operate alone. They can work alone. They have a 4+ invulnerable save. Toughness 3, same as any other sister, but then they lose out to the Canoness on that. It may just be as enhancement carriers that I now take them. So I think I'm putting them in C tier or the Penitent Host. If anyone's had great success outside of the Penitent Host, maybe in Hallowed Martyrs? Right, and the final one, the Sanctifiers. They have a lot of fire. They do a lot of Overwatch pretty well. You can have like 8 torrent weapons, 2 of them are one-shot only. But they're pretty good. That's a, oh yeah, you came towards me, burn. Burn. If you like fire, this is your good Flamer unit. And they've taken over being a Flamer unit for my Dominions, who, well, I used to take a Flamer unit of Dominions. Now if I want Flamers, I'll take Sanctifiers. They scout. They also have a Salvationist, so if the unit isn't wiped out, you can bring back D3 models. Successful tournaments list had 2 Sanctifiers. Well, they scout. If you don't wipe them out, they can come back. You don't need the Priest. You don't need the Priest. That's for combat units, then another combat unit. You would get 1 extra Flamer. It's not necessary. The scouting is good. The Flamers are good. You can torch away enemies because 2 of those Flamers are damage 2. So you can get rid of things like Pure Strain Gene Stealers, Space Marine Scouts. They can make them disappear. You got a Plasma Gun in there. It's weird because you've got to have the Plasma Gun and the one-shot Flamer, or you've got a Melter Gun. I would normally prefer just the Melter Gun. But if you're giving me 2 guns, sure, I'll take a Plasma Gun. And compensation for not being a Melter Gun. They have a Simulacrum Imperialis. They can generate Miracle Ice, potentially. They're a perfectly fine unit. If you like Dominions, but you're not going to split Dominions with an Immolator, they're a great alternative. About as squishy, because they're 5-up invulnerable save rather than a 3+ save. I tend to prefer having Dominions. But then I'll give my Dominions Melter Guns. If I want Flamers, Sanctify is good. Still love to bunker Rhino with them, hop out to Overwatch, and then die. Then the Retributors can come behind the Rhino. Yeah, because the Sanctifiers have Scout. It's a good one. They are pretty good in the Bringers of Flame. You do have the 2 command point Cleansing Flames, Devastating Wounds on all of their torrent weapons, which is going to be like 6 Flamers and potentially 2 Holy Fires if you haven't already used them. Damage 2 and Devastating Wounds goes well together. You got Scout, you can advance and shoot. Ooh, yeah, they're pretty good in the Bringers of Flame. They're generally alright. I think they are B tier. They're doing something that Dominions do, but I like Dominions more. And Dominions have an armor save, even if the Dominions don't come back. So unless there's massive outrage, there's a nice space for them there in B tier. That is all of the units. After a balanced patch, after I've done some more playtesting, I usually run a live stream where I do a new tier list for the Adepta Sororitas. That is where this is clipped from. If you want to see more detailed tactics for each of the units, this is the video to watch next. Have a great day of 40k.